Good morning. It's 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Welcome to Big Bets on Campus Live. It's the Elite Eight betting preview. We're going to cover all four games, 2 today, 2 tomorrow. I'm your host, Stuckey, and joining me, as always, are the gentlemen from the three-man weave, Matt Cox, Kai McKeon, and Jim Root. We have a lot to get to today. We'll go through all four games, take a break about halfway through, check in with Darren Ravel on a market report. Before we do get started, I want to remind everyone to make sure that you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find picks, data, and actionable content for today's card and beyond. All right, let's get right into it. And this is a crazy Elite Eight. The combined seeds, if you add them up, 47, which is a record. The previous record was 40. I think it was in 2000 and maybe 1990. So we've blown past that. We have our first ever 15 seed in the Elite Eight. We got a lot right on the show yesterday. We did not get St. Peter's right. Jim, I'm going to throw it to you before we start on best bets. I saw a tweet that you sent out and you said, look, I usually am like, all right, I'm over these Cinderella runs because, you want high quality play. You want premier matchups in, the Elite Eight, the Final Four. But you said, I'm in on the Peacocks because of what other teams are doing against them and what they're doing. So you're just give me the Peacocks all the way through.
I mean, I want Duke UNC in the Final Four, but I respect the St. Peter's run. It's not like a fully fluky shooting luck thing. They've made plays late when some of their more heralded counterparts like Jaden Ivey completely melt away from the situation. So, yeah, I respect it. I think they've certainly earned their spot here.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, why do you want Duke UNC in the Final Four? We've seen it twice. It's like it's Duke UNC, and they've never played in the tournament, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that fact, but I don't think they have. All right, let's get right into the games. And we are going to start with the first game of the day, which I feel like it should be on prime time, maybe tomorrow. Yeah, but look, we're going to get right into it. I can't wait for this one. Houston, Villanova. Villanova is actually a 2.5-point favorite here against the 5 seed Houston. It shows you the difference between power ratings and, seeds in the NCAA tournament. Over-under sitting 127.5, 128. This could be a rock fight. I'm going to go to our leadoff hitter, Mr. Matty Cox, a.k.a. Mr. Matty Carpenter. No batting gloves needed. Matt, what are you seeing here?
Well, I'm officially going to be on the fence for this game. No official play for me, but I do lean Villanova, and I do lean the under as well. I see the money's taking it up to -2.5. It's actually hit 3 at some spots. Just something about catching Villanova +3 with the way we've seen them execute so far this tournament. Now they're going up against basically a mirror image on the other end in terms of how well Houston positionally plays help side defense and the way they're built to, recover or close out, recover to all those shooters when Nova starts moving the ball around so surgically. The concern I have, though, is Colin Gillespie's health, right? I know it was confirmed that he's going to play and that he's okay, but the history he has with that ankle, how important he is to that offense, even Gillespie at like 80% would give me pause. So, again, I lean Nova. I do lean the under as well. I think the pace does play really slow today, but no official play for me.
Kai, I don't know if you had time to break this down while you were investigating Rimgate, but what are you seeing here?
Yeah, I'm taking Villanova, and I've taken Houston the last 2 rounds. I love Houston. Said on our show yesterday that Sampson's the best coach in the country, and I stand by that. But if there's any offense that can out-execute Houston's stifling defense, it's Villanova. They're well coached. They have a 4-guard lineup, experienced, poised. I think they can stretch Houston out a little bit, which is very hard to do. They shoot threes at a top 20 rate in the country, 36% from deep. That's obviously the most important thing you need to do against Houston's defense. Now, Houston's going to crush the glass. There's pretty much no stopping that, but Villanova still is a top 25 defensive team. They're long, they're switchable on the wing. I think Villanova can hang around. Plus 2.5. You don't see Villanova as a dog very often. I'll take it.
Yeah, you mentioned Kelvin Sampson being the best coach in America. If we went on a panel and we were assigned a coach to argue is the best coach in America, we'd probably have these two of the four to make an argument for. Jim, are you in agreement with Kai, or are you going with Houston?
I'm scared of Houston full game because I just think Villanova is tough. And like Kai said, you don't get them as a dog very often, but I'm taking Houston first half. I think they usually come out of the gates really, really strong. It's just most teams don't play with the physicality that they play with. I think it kind of gives people a little bit of shock early on. And basically throughout the American, they got up like 15-2 in every single game. And I don't think they'll do that against Villanova, but I do think they'll be winning at the break. I'm also taking the first half under and the full game under here. I think it's going to be slow. Houston held Arizona to its slowest game of the season. Villanova held Michigan to their slowest game since February 10th. Other games before that were sub 60 possessions for Villanova. I think this is going to be like 57 possessions, a total grind. Houston can have some really long possessions because of their offensive rebounding. Get a board and then bring it back out. Boom, there's 50 seconds gone in a heartbeat. So I like the under quite a bit just because I think it's going to be super duper slow.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd lean Villanova here. I might look for them live. Jim, if Houston gets out to a fast start here, Villanova does have the 3-point shooting, I think, to beat Houston. A lot will come down to the ref whistle, right? Because Villanova is the best free throw shooting team in the country. Houston can foul a lot, and their physical defense, if they're calling this really tight, I think that favors Nova. But I also want to see how Colin Gillespie looks. So on the number, I make this around Houston minus 1-ish. At 3, I lean Villanova, but I want to see how this plays out. But I agree on the under and first half under. I believe first half unders went 8-0 last round. And look, the games start to get slower as the tournament progresses, especially if you get to the Final Four in the championship when the stakes are higher, teams get a little tighter. If you look at what Houston does on defense and what Villanova does on offense, Houston is excellent in every phase. You got pick and roll, spot up, shoot. I mean, they are elite 99th percentile for synergy in every phase. Little weak in transition, but that's not where Villanova's going to do. I mean, you see Jay Wright screaming from the side, slow it down, walk it up the court. So I think this is really slow. I completely agree with you on the under, Jim. Just hope we avoid overtime, and that's what that first half under kind of gives us some protection against throwing some on the first half under. All right, let's move on to the second game tonight, and that's between Arkansas and Duke. What is it, early 90s vibes here? Duke 4-point favorite here, over under rising a few points, 147-ish. Duke overs have been a cash cow of late. Matt, our leadoff hitter, start us off here. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm taking Duke -4. I don't want to overthink this. We basically litigated Texas Tech to death with how their matchup concerns could thwart Duke. And for the first 25 minutes, that looked to seem prophetic, but then we saw Duke just go to that next level, right? Which we've always known that they had. I think what's unlocked it is Jeremy Roach. His playmaking at the point of attack, he opens up, softens the defense, and obviously he's turned into a circus shot maker himself. Arkansas doesn't do anything fancy schematically on the defensive end. I think Duke can score pretty easily here. I'm a little bit worried about Duke defending Arkansas's pick and roll, but we saw Coach K pull the zone out of his bag of tricks. I think that could potentially thwart the Razorbacks' drivers. So I think a lot of things point to Duke here. They're almost a buy low at this point with how well they're playing and how poorly they played in that kind of lull part of the season late. So Duke -4 is a pretty strong bet for me.
Riding the ACC train. Kai, sure. Are you getting aboard?
Yeah, the line's too short in my opinion. We just saw Duke put up 1.16 points per possession against Texas Tech. They can score against anyone. They're scary when they get rolling. And we know they're arguably the most talented team in the country on paper. And they certainly showed it against Texas Tech. And I don't see a reason why Arkansas can stop them either. Arkansas needs to be more athletic than their opponent to score. They need to overwhelm teams with quickness, with strength. You can't really do that against Duke. They're not super strong on the glass. Duke doesn't foul at a high rate, so Arkansas's basket attack is kind of neutralized. And frankly, Stuckey, it's Coach K's destiny at this point to make the Final Four in his final season. So I will take Duke -4.
You don't want Peters versus Arkansas in the Final Four?
I do not. I really do not.
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Duke -4 as well. These guys made some terrific points. Matt, we've said all season Duke games are about Duke, and they have been very engaged the last couple of games. I kind of bought into the narrative that they struggle with the pressure late. And man, the final 5 minutes of Michigan State, final 5 minutes of Texas Tech, they have been completely nails. So I think that narrative is kaput. This young team has risen to the occasion. I'm also going with the first half under 69.5. As you mentioned, Stuckey, they went 8-0 in the Sweet 16. I think Arkansas is going to have at least a decent defensive plan early. Duke will eventually crack it and overwhelm them with their talent. But I think it's a little bit of a slower, inefficient first half. And then I'll let the second half do what it may. But so Duke -4, first half under 69.5.
Yeah, you said, Jim, I'll disagree with you in one part. You said that narrative is dead, and I agree in that, like, our Duke's not going to have all the pressure. Maybe, and we'll revisit this next week, maybe it's a different story if it's Duke, Carolina, Final Four with a week of just hype and press and all of that. So we'll see if that maybe changes things for Duke next week, but I agree, shouldn't be an issue tonight. I'm going to agree on Duke. I lean Duke. I might end up betting it small, but I'm going to wait to maybe bet them live. I think this is a game of runs, both sides. And look, Duke handles pressure really well. I think they're the 100th percentile against the press. Obviously, don't see it a lot in the ACC. But look, maybe there's a moment where Duke changes and goes zone, because I think Arkansas's guards can have some success here. And look, it changed the game against Texas Tech. Now, if you look at the numbers, Texas Tech actually scored more points per possession against the zone than they did against man. But it kind of just stemmed the tide for a bit. And Arkansas's zone offense, horrendous, 19th percentile in the country, and they just can't shoot. And I think that'll kind of stymie some of the things Arkansas does well offensively. So I'm going to look for maybe a point to get in on Duke live, as I did against Texas Tech, maybe when they decide to go zone if Arkansas is on a big run. But I would agree. I think Duke is the side here, and we are going to eventually get that Duke-Carolina Final Four game. All right, let's take a break in the action and bring in Mr. Darren Ravel. Sorry to say to some of you out there who are looking to see Darren's chest hair again, he is not in a robe this time. Mr. Ravel with a market report, sporting some Bulls gear.
Yeah, very, very few people in the country want to see my chest hair. I don't think that's how we're getting.
Very few. Wait, you did multiple? Okay.
Very yes, maybe 2 or 3. I thought it was funny how you were talking about Jim's curmudgeonly his curmudgeon thoughts on Cinderella. I could not believe the people on Twitter yesterday are like, enough with the stats on St. Peter's. Are you kidding me? Like, no, it's not the time to say enough, and unfollow if you think it's enough, because we're going to keep hitting this. I want to just quickly talk about St. Peter's because it's just so outrageous. So they started the tournament at BetMGM 100-1. And then somehow by 1,000-1, and then somehow by the round of 64, they were 3,000-1, which is comical to me. There were only 3 schools. What was it? Texas Southern and Cal State Fullerton, and I don't know, Wright State or something that was 5,000-1. The odds of Elvis appearing alive are somewhere around 2,000-1. I guess that was just thrown out there. But so after yesterday, the highest tickets yesterday in terms of bets on the national championship were at BetMGM were Duke 8%, Kansas 5%, and St. Peter's 4.4%. It's just so wild. I think people think they're closer than they are. But let's go to at least today's splits. Houston 2.5. The money's mostly on them, and the bets 55% of the bets at BetMGM and 51% of the bets at FanDuel. On the money, 62 and 57. And then, Arkansas, Duke, 3.5, 4, Duke being the favorite. Money's also on Duke, 61% of the bets, both at FanDuel and BetMGM on Duke, and 66% and 71% of the money on Duke. So I don't think there's really anything surprising there. And I think obviously you guys seems like unanimously like that pick. I would say what's interesting to me is that you talked about the unders. there's not like big numbers from any of those books that we got as far as being lopsided to the overs or unders, even though the unders have been so good. Maybe that's just because people are just thinking about the value of Duke and Houston over the unders. But I'm an under king. I love unders, and I'm on the under too. Not like you really care about my opinion, but I'm just telling you.
All right. Well, good stuff, Darren. And we'll pour one out for your Providence future.
Yeah.
You had a good run. They took the lead late in that Kansas game. But shout out to Al Durham for playing
What
for
a
the
run.
cover late.
What a run. What a great run.
Yeah. Well, they gave you some excitement. Thanks for the market report, Darren, and enjoy your day.
You got it.
All right, let's keep things moving here. And the Providence end game. Look, no matter what the score is in a tournament game, if it's 5-10, it's very, very exciting for bettors, and that certainly was for the sweat for Providence. Thankfully, they chose layups over threes late. But let's keep it moving and talk about the team that Providence lost to, and that's Kansas, the only remaining 1 seed left. They will take on the 10 seed Miami Hurricanes, who have just been a wagon so far in this tournament. Easy win over Iowa State. Kansas 6-point favorite here. Matt, throw it to you. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback Mr. Rovell's undertaker takes here. I'm looking at first half under 69, Kansas, Miami. Nice. Kai, we were there investigating on the scenes. We know what we saw. Those rims are tilted up by a good 3 to 4 degrees. Providence was completely bewildered by that awkward, brand new rim structure setup. All jokes aside, there was something off, and I smelled it, and I'm going to go back to that. Well, first half under. Also, matchup-wise, Kansas elite in transition D, and that's where Miami's the most efficient offense in the country at getting their points. I think Bill Self puts a premium on that in this game. This game plays to a slower pace. So first half under 69 for me.
Kai, I do appreciate you guys messing with the rims for content for the show. I'm not sure what you did, but I appreciate it. What do you got here?
Yeah, this is the toughest game to call, in my opinion. I was very impressed with Miami on Friday. I think I'm going their way with the Canes +6 here. They can space KU out. They basically play 5 out on the perimeter. Sam Wardenberg is their 5-man, kind of a de facto 5-man. He is an excellent passer. He is an excellent shooter. He threw about 30 backdoor passes against Iowa State. It was truly impressive to watch. Miami's defense was a lot better yesterday than I've been accustomed to seeing it all season. Now, they played Iowa State, not a good offensive team, and KU's a totally different animal. But I was still impressed, and I think they can bother KU's ball handlers with their pressure, especially in the half court. Rebounding is a concern, but I think Miami finds a way to keep this one close. Love Jim Larinaga as well. Miami +6 for me.
Jim, are you siding with your namesake, Mr. Larinaga?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm siding with both these guys, actually. I'm taking the first half under with Matthew. I'm riding that train. I just think there's some tension and some slow pace early before probably a points explosion in the second half, because I think both teams can really score. But yeah, that's basically what happened against Providence. Giving up 44.5 to Providence is pretty bad. And that's what Kansas did. I still have questions about the defense. The Creighton performance still has some alarm bells going in my head, giving up over a point per possession to a team with 4 scorers. That's no bueno. And I just think this Miami team can keep up with their backcourt, with Wardenberg, like Kai mentioned, and then the Swiss Army knife of Jordan Miller. He's been a key for them too with his versatility. So I'm taking the +6.5. I think they can score with Kansas, but yeah, I think the second half, it basically devolves into a total shootout. And so Miami just has to score enough to keep up.
I'm gonna go play devil's advocate. I'm gonna disagree here. I'm gonna go with Kansas. Need 6. I think there's a 6 out there. I just think this is a terrible matchup for Miami. I mean, we talked about why Iowa State was such a good matchup for Miami. What has Miami struggled with all year? It's rebounding, post defense. Well, Kansas, elite rebounding team, and they can abuse Miami in the interior. Miami's also horrific transition defense. You mentioned Kansas's transition defense. Well, Kansas elite transition offense. I think they can get out in transition here and have success. And if you look at some of the numbers on where Kansas really does struggle on defense, it's in the post. They don't have a great post defense issue. They're kind of soft in a way. Well, Miami doesn't post it up. They're 340th in the country in post up frequency. They don't really go into the post at all. So I think this sets up as a really good matchup for Kansas. I hate that they can't get margin on teams, but like 6, I'm still comfortable laying 6 here with fouls. You can get to 6-7 if it does get close late. But I think this just sets up for Candace grabbing every rebound, getting out in transition, and then scoring at will in the paint. So I'm going to disagree and go against the ACC mojo. All right, let's move on to the final elite game of the weekend, and that's St. Peter's. This is, I mean, if you just look at the bracket and you see but the 15 versus the 8 and the St. Peter's versus UNC, this should be like, feels like a 15 versus 2 in the first round. UNC is an 8-point favorite here over under. I think it's at the 137. Matt, Peacock Magic continue?
I kind of think it does. No official play for me here. I don't know how you can bet against St. Peter's at this point. They've gotten this far. It's been multiple games now where you can basically you can't find like a nitpicky, fluky type of dynamic that played out in their favor. They're just good. They're playing connected defense. Their offense has gotten all kinds of buzz with the sets that Holloway draws up late in games. They've been executing brilliantly. And I think it's another game that's going to be tough for UNC to get margin. You look at the last 6 Elite Eights, dogs are 13-6 against the number. Now, this is a special kind of dog, but just when you get to this point in the bracket, I think we're playing with house money type of mentality, and all the pressure's on the favorite with that ultimate Final Four step looming. So I think a lot sets up here for the Peacocks, but no official play. I mean, it's 8 points. 8.
The one thing, yeah, I mean, you said no fluky results. I mean, against Kentucky there, they played really well. I mean, shocked by there was a 20-point loss. I would have laid, I can't even tell you how much I would have laid, that if you gave me Purdue to have more free throw attempts than St. Peter's. Not in a million years that I think St. Peter's would have 5 or 6 more free throws. I thought it was going to be 20-25 in Purdue's favor after it was 46-12 in Texas against St. Peter's. That was pretty wild. But yeah, you're right. There's something there. Their offense is obviously playing a lot better. Their defense is well connected. 8 seems a little low after we just saw 13, though. Kai, what are you thinking here?
Well, yeah, it makes no sense. This line is ridiculous. I mean, you can't be laying 8 if you're UNC when Purdue just laid 13. Purdue, I don't think, would be a 5-point favorite on neutral against the Tar Heels. And is St. Peter's really 8 points worse than UNC? Maybe they are right now. They're the second best ATS team in the country. So I guess who am I to argue? And their path, beating Kentucky, beating Murray State, beating Purdue, that is a murderer's row of teams that St. Peter's has just run through right now. I'm impressed, but I'm going to fade them once again. I'm taking UNC -8, fading the Peacocks for the 4th straight time. The edge inside is frankly, it's too big. And what does St. Peter's do on offense? They offensive rebound and they get to the free throw line. UNC is the second best defensive rebound team in the country. They don't foul, hypothetically. By the way, the Peacocks 19 for 21 yesterday from the free throw line, 69% for the year. Whatever they're drinking, they need to keep doing it and keep this run alive. But I'm taking the Tar Heels -8.
Jim, are you also going to be stubborn here and bet on the wheel?
I sure am. Here I go. 4th straight time fading St. Peter's. We'll see if it keeps burning a hole in my pocket. The big difference for me is Brady Manick. I don't really think that St. Peter's has faced a true stretch big yet this tournament, like a high volume, big time shooter at the 4 spot that can move their defense around, loosen things up. I mean, he's made almost 100 threes already this season. That's pretty dang impressive. And I also saw a stat today that UNC is the first team with a trio of teammates in the NCAA tournament to score 25 with 5+ threes in separate games. Davis, Love, and Manick have already done that. I think that's by far the most lethal perimeter group that St. Peter's has faced, and they've been able to play really compact and take things away in the paint, but UNC can loosen them up. So stubbornly taking the -8 here. I know that it is not the fun side to be on, but I'm with Kai. It's too short of a number compared to what it should be.
Yeah, I lean UNC here, but I also like the over. I mean, St. Peter's offense, it's clicking, and UNC defense obviously has holes and can be exposed here, but I think UNC should score at will. And you mentioned, like, how does Peter score? You know, they usually get to the line. UNC doesn't foul, top 10 in that aspect. UNC top 10 in defensive rebounding. But Peters is shooting well. Their offense just is playing as well as it has all year. So I think they can put up some points here. North Carolina also doesn't turn teams over. And while UCLA never turns it over, so it wasn't really a factor, Peters turns it over a lot. So I think that'll help their offense here. But I just don't see UNC folding like Purdue did. They should be able to handle the pressure. They should be able to get easy looks at the bucket. And as you mentioned, I think Manick is an important factor here. So I think that there's some value in the over. All right, that'll do it for us with our Elite 8 preview. Good luck today and tomorrow. with your wagers. After tomorrow night, we'll have our Final Four set. We'll be back next Saturday with our Final Four betting preview. Make sure you check out Big Bets on Campus wherever you listen to your podcast. And of course, make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. For myself and the crew from the Three Man Weave, and of course, Darren Ravel, thanks for tuning in and good luck with your wagers this weekend.